Well, good day to you. It is April the 22nd. I hope you're doing well out there. It's been far too long since I put one of these videos up, so I missed doing it. And I hope you guys are all doing well. Hopefully there's joy in your life, and of course, you're finding something to laugh at. But my name's Gary Willing, and I want to welcome you to Search for Signs and welcome you back if you've heard these videos before. And also, point out if you're new, remind you again, because it's been a while since I, like I said, put these videos up, that if you want to know more about who and what Maitreya is, about his priorities, why he's here, why is it important that he's coming back, those kind of things. You can answer a lot of those questions yourself, and it's better to do that, actually, by reading more about who and what he is and what he's about. If you check out the description portion of these videos, you'll see links that take you to websites that talk about this information in some way. So hopefully you'll do it at some point, because it is something that I think is really a necessary step if you're interested in this information, to know more about it and educate yourself better about it. And then you can see if there's any truth to it. If you want to join the discussion, of course you can do that. You can post comments. You can post your questions in the comment section. Email me at searchforsigns@mail.com. You can even join the discussion on Facebook. And I actually had a new way of getting a question to me that I hadn't really thought of. So I'll get to that in a moment. But I want to thank Jay and TNS for your comments, Meryl T, Rick Todd, and Mark Hill for the text message. Actually, he sent me a text message question. So that I'll try to limit as much as possible. I'm not talking about you, Mark. I'm just talking about in general. I don't want to encourage people to find my phone number and start texting me like galore about all these questions. It's better to email me or post the question in the comment section for sure. But let's get on into it. Now, I wanted to circle back to some comments that kind of generated based on a mistake that I made, actually. And I can't remember what video it was that I said this, but I said a cosmic age was 3,500 years. And my buddy Rick Todd called me out on it, and I'm man enough to admit when I'm wrong, so I was wrong on that. And if you listen to most of my videos, there are a few things here or there that I've said that I probably misspoke or shouldn't have said it, or even my grammar might have been incorrect, but I can't edit it out and put it back in. So once I record it, rather than recording another 25-minute video again, I just leave it in there if it's not too egregious of an error. But anyway, so I left it in there. Anyway, so he commented on it, but what was cool was there was some, kind of some comments back and forth, and then some questions that kind of sprout out about what is a cosmic age. So we're going to talk about that, and then I'm going to answer Mark's question. But what we talk about here, and really the problems of the world, really you can't talk about them from an esoteric standpoint without at least in the back of your mind knowing the truth of the cause of what we're seeing, the cause of the problems in the world, the cause of the divisions, but also the reason why these masters are coming back. It has everything to do with cosmic ages. And what is a cosmic age? Well, it's not 3,500 years, like I said. I was thinking about something else and I misspoke, but it's about 2,150 years, give or take a week or two. I'm kidding, but it's about a little over 2,000 years, give or take. And what it is our sun moves from one zodiac constellation in the zodiac to another, to another, to another, and it makes this orbit around it. And every time it moves, it comes into alignment with one or other of these constellations. And unbeknownst to humanity right now, but in the future, we'll know more about it. We'll have a science to back it up, prove it, the existence of it, and those kind of things, is that there's energy emanating from each one of these constellations that affect us individually, they affect us globally, and those kind of things. And we're moving from one to another. Okay, now, when it comes to astrology in the mainstream sense of the word, I don't believe 95% of what I read or hear about astrology, to be honest with you, because I don't think that astrologers of today really have a true grasp on the truth of what it means of the zodiac. So, for instance, if I was sitting in a bar and somebody came up to me and asked me what my sign was because they were hitting on me, if I was a woman, I wouldn't take anything to that. And I don't go around going, what sign are you? And oh, well, you're a Gemini. I can't get along with you, so I'm just going to move on. That's the wrong way of looking at astrology, really. But it does affect us. And as we start to know more about it, we'll have more of a scientific approach and not a mystical approach of astrology, really. And it's a science that through the future, humanity will, like I said, once we know more about it, we'll be able to use it more accurately than we're using it today. But it's centered around the truth that all is energy. And our scientists, and I think a lot of this has to do with the work that Einstein did with E equals MC squared, are just starting to even have a glimmer of, how do I say this, an urgency to look into the truth that all is energy. So I say it like that because most of the time somebody would say that when it comes to a new science or a new theory or whatever, we're just scratching the surface of this. I don't even think we've even scratched the surface yet of what it means that all is energy, but we're starting to look at it. And once we start to scratch the surface, it's going to change life on planet Earth. It's going to change the way that we see ourselves in the universe, the way that we even our technology and everything will change based on that truth. But that energy coming from these constellations affects our culture, affects our society. And over the last 2,000 or so years, we have been influenced by the energies of Pisces. So if you look at history over the last 2,000 years, it's been marked by, especially Western history, has been marked by Christianity, the good and the bad of Christianity, the good of the teachings of Christ, but also the flip side of it, the dogma, the ideology, the divisions, the hatred, the bigotry, the violence that's coming from humanity's misuse of the energies of Pisces. But all the good that's happened over the last 2,000 years was a result of the energies of Pisces. All the bad that humanity has done over the last 2,000 years is a direct result of the misuse of the energy of Pisces. So, for instance, if we could get into a time machine and go back 2,000 years ago, at the time that Jesus was in Palestine, I think even just someone of average intelligence, an average view of life, would be shocked at how ignorant the people were of that time, how they could not think for themselves, that even those who could think for themselves and dominated those who couldn't were pretty unaware and unintelligent, but yet could kind of think for themselves, and therefore they could manipulate the people. But I think we'd be very shocked at how ignorant these people were, 2,000 years ago, and how much we've advanced since then. So even some of the dumbest people that you might come in contact that just irritate the fool out of you would be a super genius compared to somebody that was around during the time of Jesus. But the thought of, or the belief that you're a person, that you're an individual even, or words or phrases like, I think, therefore I am, or be the best, or live the American dream, all that stuff came from the Piscean age. I don't even think that if you were to tell them, somebody, be yourself, they would have any idea what that meant 2,000 years ago, the average person. They would be like, what are you talking about? Just as today, the thought about oneness is just a thought. It's just an idea. It's just a set of words. It doesn't really mean what it really means to people today because we have no idea. So 2,000 years from now, after the Aquarian age is done, come and gone, we'll have a whole different perspective on oneness, on unity than we have today. A different understanding of what oneness and unity is as it is today. So we'll see life totally different based on 2,000 years from now that we do today, just as we see life totally different than we did 2,000 years ago at this particular moment, at the start of this age, that kind of thing. So, but it does affect humanity. And where we're seeing the divisions, we're seeing the reactionary forces of the past, of Pisces, trying to stay and keep everything a hold as the way it is. All the economic structures, political structures, social structures, religious structures, and those kind of things, and educational structures in that way, because that's what's familiar. And then you have the progressive, moving into something. They don't know exactly what's the right direction, but they just know that staying still is not the way that we need to be. And they're responding a tad bit more to the new energies, but they still have some of the old energies. So they can be just as fanatical as the reactionary forces but they're fanatical about change. And so eventually, once Maitreya starts to really speak to humanity directly, and we're starting to see that this is Maitreya, and then eventually know he is Maitreya, he'll be speaking to those groups, both of those groups. so where that both groups can really understand what the real necessity is, which is to come together as one family and not so much the division. So, but that's where I think we need to understand that this, as you're starting to study this information and learn this information, is that it's important to look at it from a transitional stage, from one cosmic age to another. What did it mean? What did the Piscean age really give humanity? How did humanity really misuse the energies of Pisces, and what are the new energies like? So when you read this information, if you take the time to do it, read more about it from that standpoint. It might give you a better understanding and a better sense of hope about the future based on the problems that you might be seeing today. It's not hopeless. This is a necessary step into moving into the next stage. It's just that the Aquarian energy and the Piscean energy are two totally different things. Piscean energy is more individualistic, and that's why we have a very powerful, potent individuality in individuals today, where everyone's an aspiring emperor, aspiring, YouTube, genius with billions of followers and make all this money, and that's what we're all aspiring to do on our own level and whatever it is that we are. And we're not seeing the other person as part of one family, or even seeing us as one. But where we're moving into is seeing more and more and more groups coming together, less about the individual, more about groups. Not that you lose your individuality. Let's get that very clear. Harmony through diversity. There's not another person, I don't care what Neil deGrasse Tyson says, there's not another dimension or another person in the entire universe that's exactly like you. It's impossible. You're totally unique, but yet be able to see that uniqueness within you is a gift, but also the uniqueness in somebody else is a gift too. See? So it works both ways. But anyway, but that's really, kind of just loosely touching on what those what the New Age is about. But anywho, speaking of New Age, one of the things that Mark Hill posted, didn't text me about, was about Marianne Williamson. And I was not familiar with her, but now I'm starting to see more and more videos of her. She's an incredible woman. And when it comes to politicians, I always want to reserve my my endorsement until I get enough information. But from what I've been seeing in terms of videos, she is a politician of the future. And I would definitely recommend, if somebody who is into politics, to take the time to at least listen to what she has to say. Because I saw her on a very left-leaning progressive, or they call themselves progressive, YouTube channel, the Young Turks. And she kind of showed them up, because they can kind of go in through these bitch sessions about Trump and the bitch sessions about the right, and it gets old after a while. But she really, because one of the things that they asked her was, well, how are you going to defeat Trump? And she goes, well, one thing is to stop talking the way that you're talking. She said she was not trying to defeat anybody. She's trying to awaken the heart. I mean, it was really inspiring to see this woman. She's kind of like, they say Marjorie Taylor Greene is Trump in heels. I think she's Bernie Sanders in heels, and she's much younger, and she's got a lot to offer. And, I definitely recommend checking her out and making your own opinion. But up until the point that he commented about it, I had no idea who she was. But anyway, now let's get on to the text messaged question that he asked. He said, all right, Gary, I have a question for Search for Science. Could you talk about some of these other masters who are to return with Maitreya? Have you encountered any teachers who you recognize as a returned master? So the only other master that I've recognized in my own life as a familiar was the Master Jesus, who was with Maitreya at the time that I saw him. So if you go to the Share International site, you can read a lot about Maitreya, whether it's from the articles from Benjamin Creme's master. I definitely recommend reading those things. But you can also read some of the letters that people wrote into Share International, people such as myself who have met Maitreya, met some of these other masters. But the most active two masters were Maitreya and the Master Jesus. Throughout the years, those were 95% of the master experiences were from those two. And then there was the master from Tokyo who about, 20 or so years ago started to have more and more people were starting to see him. But that was when those were coming from the Japanese groups. were starting to see him. He was becoming more active with that group. But the other masters, per se, didn't really interact with the group. There was like one or two experiences with Ben's master that I remember. And he did say before he died, he said that to keep on the lookout for other masters and their familiars. So I think they are probably other masters interacting with ordinary folks such as myself, a parts of the Share International group and the extended group, that kind of way. Not that Share International group had the monopoly on Maitreya experiences, let me get that straight, but they were just the ones that knew about it to be able to write and had the wherewithal and the connection to write to Ben, and Ben could respond and say yes or no if that was one of the masters. But there were apparently others, and he said the Master Moria, the Master Kuthumi was another one, and the Master Rakuzi, I think, were the other. I think those were the three that he mentioned in particular. Because if you look at the Alice Bailey books, those were the three: the Master Moria, the Master Kuthumi, and the Master DK, and the Master Rakuzi were the masters that, in particular, were going to be heading up the reappearance of the Christ and the Masters of Wisdom. Their groups were the ones that were going to be really working in that area. The other masters were working in different areas, but that responsibility was on the shoulders of those masters, from what I remember. Now, there are masters, if you don't know this, the masters lived openly in the world for millennia. And this is where where I said the cosmic age was 3,500 years. So it's been a little over 100,000 years since the masters openly directed humanity. Since then, they've been hidden away. They've been still on this planet, but hidden far from humanity, in the Himalayas in particular, some of the other mountain regions, the Carpathians, the Andes, the Urals, the Rocky Mountains and those kind of things. But they've been kind of hidden away from humanity. So far remote that there would be little to no chance of stumbling upon them accidentally. So that's how remote they were. I mean, Ben's master said that Maitreya lived 17,500 feet up in the Himalayas. And there was no chance that I was ever going to go up that way. So Maitreya was not the first master to enter the everyday world. It was actually the one in New York, I think, was the first one. He said it wasn't in terms of importance. It was just the order in which they came in. The first one went into New York. The second one went into London. And this was in the mid-'70s. So this was a couple years before Maitreya came in July 19th, 1977. And then a master entered London apart from Maitreya, and then Geneva, and then Darjeeling, and then the one in Tokyo, the one I was just talking about that was a little bit more active than the other masters, but not as active as Jesus in terms of familiars, and Maitreya in terms of creating a familiar and teaching the group in that way, but was starting to. And so he was the last of the five, and they've been there ever since the mid-'70s. And then two more entered two different centers, one into Rome, one into Moscow, according to Ben's master. And the one in Rome is the only one he's able to talk about, and that's the Master Jesus. So the Master Jesus, for centuries, was living in, I think, in Syria, just north of Palestine, in that area. That's how remote he was. He was living in the desert areas of that area. But he entered Rome, and eventually he'll head up the churches. He'll be asked by at least the Catholic Church, to clean up some of the distortions in the Bible, kind of set them on the right path, bring it truer to what the churches were supposed to be in general, and those kind of things. But he's in Rome right now. And then, since then, Ben's has hinted that there was a master in San Francisco, on the outskirts of San Francisco, one on the outskirts of L.A., and there's apparently one in the Ozark Mountains, if you're familiar with that area, in the Arkansas, Missouri area, kind of that area. And then there's also a master in Beijing and a master in Paris, and that's kind of where the hints stopped. So anyway, but there might be I'm sure there might be others out there, but those are the ones that I know of. And the work and activity of the masters, it would be impossible for me to really explain exactly, because I don't know for myself. But each master has a particular part of the plan of God that they are responsible, and their groups are responsible for implementing. And when they're out known for who they are in the world, they will be more and more active in that way, and will know more about who and what they are and what they're about. But anyway, I love you guys. You guys take care. I enjoy you. Glad to be able to put up another video. Talk to you guys real soon. Remember to take action and help SOP save our planet. Thanks for listening, and we look forward to talking to you again in future videos.